I joined on January 1943, at 16, straight from school. And I worked there full-time till I retired, full-time at 65. But then I went on part-time until 1999, I think it was.
Now, most people who enter the print have an uncle or a dad or a brother or a sister who worked there. Did you get the job on your own ability, or did you have a relative?
No, on my own ability. I went to the Essex Weekly first, and they didn't want any apprentices. So I come up the road, I went to the Essex Chronicle, and they wanted, yes, can we start tomorrow? I said, oh no, I can't start till next week. And I started the following week.
Why is it as fresh as the day? Why do you know that off by heart?
No, I just remember it, I suppose.
And did you think you'd be there how many years?
I think 56 totally, with part-time. It's up on the wall, I think.
Ah, what is that exactly? Is that the front page?
That was the front page of the first edition that I went there in January 1943. And I think it was 56 years, including part-time.
What is that, Ted?
I think it's an engraving of the front page of the issue of January the 1st, 1943, which was the week I first started working at the Chronicle. And it was presented to me on the last day when I finished there. Finally finished after my part-time work, as it says on the bottom piece you can read there.
Now on YouTube, we've got the video of that presentation, I believe, in the composing room. Was it presented in the composing room or in the managing director's office?
From what I can remember, it was presented in the managing director's office, because I'd already had an official presentation of my retirement. So I think it was just a small gathering of directors who presented it to me.
In those days, they knew how to say goodbye, didn't they?
Yes, certainly did, yeah.
And it's one of your proud possessions?
It is, yes. I'm very, very proud of this, yes.
Has it been a fascination just looking at some of the stories there? Because you wouldn't remember what was the front page of the first edition that you worked on?
Not really, no. I was just an apprentice then, the boy.
Did you ever think in 1943 that you'd be there life sentence?
I won't call it a life sentence exactly, but no. I suppose at that age, when you're, how old was I, 16, you don't think of the future, do you? You just carry on as you were, sort of thing.
It's not a very exciting looking page, is it? The headlines are very small in those days.
I remember in these days that all weekly papers had all the births, marriages and deaths on the front page. The pages used to be completely all adverts, and it wasn't until RJ come to the Chronicle, he changed all that. But you see, this is where it was partly changed. Still got a few adverts on the front, but in the end he wiped the whole lot off. There was no adverts at all. He wouldn't have them, because he wanted it all to look like a daily newspaper.
So it really revolutionised.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. You go back to pre-1940 days, the front page of the Chronicle was all adverts. Yeah.
Births, deaths and marriages on the front page. But surely, Ted, that's what people want a local paper for, the births, deaths and marriages. I think, do you think that people that want exciting news, people are looking for news about themselves, aren't they?
Well, that's true, yes. Really, I think the most important thing of a weekly paper is the village news, because people get married from between the villages and they look at all the different news that they cover. That's the most important.
It's a local paper.
Yeah.
Perhaps we not interested in murders and robberies and violence.
But I think the older you get, the more interest you get in the births, marriage and death, particularly the deaths, to see who's gone and where you in the queue, sort of thing.
Talking about the time when Briery Place was bombed and J.O. Thompson and his family lost their lives.
Yes.
How close? Which side were you? Did you go there before the bombing or after?
I was there, I think, before the bombing, I think.
Before. So what a shock to the whole team there.
I can remember going to work one morning down Dew Street, and the whole of Chelmsford was covered with fire hoses and all sorts of things, you know. I was a first-year apprentice, and I often used to have to take a message from my foreman in the composer room to Ridge Thompson. And I should knock on the door and go in, and I used to say, I can't think of his name, the old foreman's name. He sends his compliments and offers him a bit of snuff and give him the message, just like that. And then he'd come out, and sometimes he'd say, wait there, sit down a minute, and he'd be scribbling away, and perhaps a bit of news he'd written. I had to take it back up to the composer room.
Talk us through this. When you worked in the High Street then, from 1943, this is where Jessop's used to be. Where did you, as a worker, go through the front door, or did you go round the back? There was in the alleyway?
Yeah, in the alleyway there's a side door.
And when you walked in there, what were you confronted with? Can you take your mind back?
Yes, you were confronted with the actual packing area, where they used to actually pack the papers. And right ahead of you, was through a door, was the actual press itself. And then there's a...
So it was on the ground floor, the press?
The press was on the ground floor, yeah.
I thought the press was in the basement.
No.
What did they... All right,
there was a gas engine in the basement that they used to run, run the press.
Oh, right. So you walked in there to the left, to the right of you as you walked in, which was a left turn from the High Street down the alleyway, wasn't it? When you walked in there, you saw the printing press, you saw the packing room. Were they in... I mean, there's a very tight space there.
Yeah, but obviously there's a door that wasn't all open.
No.
You just opened the door and there was the press, and right was the packing area. You turned left, a passageway led through to the front office. And behind that front office was stairs that led up to all the rest of the offices, editorial offices, advertising office, and the actual composing area itself.
Take me up the stairs. So you'd walk up a flight of stairs to the first floor.
Halfway up the stairs, another stairway branched off, which led to the editorial office and the editor's office. And you carried up, and then you halfway up the stairs, you could branch off to where the general printing area was, where they used to print a few posters. The next floor up was the composing area for the newspapers, where they made the pages up from metal type. The adverts were made up too from individual metal letters, and a room through the back were where the linotype machines were. And then if you went up further up, right to the top was the actual general printing area where they printed posters and all that type of thing.
This must have been a racket going on. Does it mean so noisy? When that press was running and the gas engine was running down below it.
And when you think how old the building was, the weight on that building must have been colossal. How it ever collapsed, I don't know. Well, it didn't collapse. Like that.
That's why they obviously put the printing press on the ground floor. Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't have taken the weight above it. No. How many people would have worked there at the time? There was how many people in editorial? How many compositors? How many printers, inkies?
You've got to remember this was wartime I'm talking about now, and a lot of the staff obviously had to leave to join the army.
So what, was it run by women?
No.
I know that there was a lot of women reporters though, and a woman photographer called Rossi Vinyl.
Rossi Vinyl. The woman reporters were introduced by Ridge Thompson. Before then there was no women reporters.
Because they weren't boys, they were all at war.
Well, yeah.
He was a Fleet Street guy.
That's exactly. I suppose totally there was about 40 or 50 working there at that time. There wasn't a majority of women, no. There was no women in the actual printing area at all.
But why weren't they called up?
The only women, well, some of them were, they were allowed to keep one or two.
Reserved occupation.
One or two, but they were old. They were either us apprentices or old men.
Like Freddie Tapp.
Yeah. Two reporters, Freddie Tapp and John Chaplin.
Until they got the girls.
Yeah.
Until he brought his girls.
Until he brought some girls in, yeah.
So, and they made a wonderful contribution because I've tracked one down to Canada.
Yeah.
And she's actually given me her Essex Chronicle calling card. Business card. I'll tell you, we'll progress onto her. I tell you, you'll be excited what I found out. She married, actually, I forget her name for that. She married a colonial policeman and went off to Kenya, Uganda, somewhere in Africa. And he was involved in the rescue of Ernest Hemingway when his plane crashed. And she was filing stories from Africa to the Essex Chronicle, how she got this scoop, and she said they never paid her a penny. That was when she'd left the paper. Yeah. But so there was the bevy of young girls. There was the front office girls. Probably there were girls, I should think, and then the rest were predominantly older men.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course certain people had gone off to war. Ralph Tyrrell. Yeah. He'd gone off, and Peter. Was there a Peter? Another a youngster with him. I think he talks about they both went into the services. Yeah. I don't know whether both.
They've gone when I went there. I really replaced them. I was one of the apprentices that replaced the ones that had already just gone.
So you only saw Ralph again when you returned after the war. Yes, squadron leader, of course. Yeah. And then worked with him for years at Westway, didn't you?
Oh yes.
For many years, at least 25, I would think. Yeah. If not more.
All the whole time till he left.
So tell me again, so we've been through the newsroom and the printing press. So what was your specific job as a youngster there, as an apprentice? What did you do?
Well, everything really. You had to go in early morning and light the fires, was your first job. And you had to carry buckets of coke from the cellar up in a hand lift that you pulled with a rope up to whichever floor.
Like a dumbwaiter?
Yeah. Then you had to help proof the galleys of type that come from the linotype machines.
What does it mean to proof them?
Well, take a copy of it, which then went to the reader to read and check. They used to check that from the copy. And then we were also involved in setting up all the headlines with hand type, putting type in the stick, and also setting one or two of the adverts by hand as well.
So were they what you would call dog's body jobs?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but the whole time you was learning the printing right from the ground floor up.
You hadn't really chosen your career. This was a real ground floor apprenticeship, and you were doing a bit of everything.
Yeah, but then you see, I progressed onto the linotype machine.
Why?
Because that's what I wanted to do. After I'd been a little while, I realised that was for me the best job. So I started learning the keyboard, going on for an hour at lunchtimes when the operator was gone to lunch. I would hop on and be taught by the foreman then, who was Les Twitchett. And gradually, when somebody was ill or something, I would then be put on that machine for a week. So not producing as much as a man, obviously, but getting trained up, as it were.
So did you learn to touch type, surely? Because it's a QWERTY keyboard.
No, it wasn't a QWERTY keyboard.
Wasn't it?
No, you had 3 banks of keys. The first bank was all the lowercase, the right-hand bank was all the uppercase, and in the middle was all the odds and sods, commas and all punctuation and all that sort of thing.
They made it difficult for themselves.
Well, no, you've got to remember that you wasn't actually typing. When you touched a key, that released a little brass matrix from a case above your head, dropped down into front of it to form letters and words. So the keys were in order of those that were used first. So the first row of keys down nearest your hand was EDU. I knew it off by heart. Just remember, it's gone now. But I know it off my hat still. But for the moment, because of
If you were there, you could still type.
Oh yes, yes.
So it wasn't as if it was pressing a
SHID.
letter. Things had to happen. So did you have to? You didn't need to be particularly fast because by the time it happened, the next thing had happened.
Well, you had to be fairly quick, but not fast because that mattress had got to drop down and assemble in what we call the stick. And then when you've got a whole line, you have to release that to go to be cast. And that went round the machine and went back up again, and all those letters were put back in the proper channel again to come back down again. So you had about 20 of each letter going round and round the machine all the time.
How on earth did we produce papers then?
Well, you could about a column of newsprint, a column. You could produce the type for that in about an hour, if you were quite adept at it.
It's a long time in today's money, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how many linotype operators were there with you, Ted?
Well, when I first went there was 4 machines.
And you typed the whole of the Chronicle between you, didn't you?
Yeah. But you've got to remember that in those days there's only 8 pages Chronicle during the wartime. Although I think once a month we could go to 12 pages because of the newsprint was ration, you see.
But did you still have to do overtime to get it all together, even for 8 pages, or yes, were you able to do it during the working day?
Normally during the working day, but there was occasional overtime, yes. And we had to work one late night a week. On Thursday nights we had to work apprentices till 8 o'clock, but journeymen used to go through as long as that was needed.